Buckle up. This is about to be the longest video you've seen on my YouTube yet. So I had my first live on the 31st of January. That's like a couple of days ago, I think, or a week ago. I don't know, depending on when you're watching this video. But it's on the 31st of January. And I was so terrified. I was terrified before the video started, before the live started. I was so terrified. I put off the system in my shaking abilities. I was literally scared and worried and tensed. And I was like, what is going on? Why am I so terrified and afraid? My mother was asking me what's going on, why you are afraid, what is the matter? And after the live, it took me like 1 whole hour to get myself together, to be cool, to be calm, and to feel like myself again. Why am I sharing this story? Because, you know, sometimes when you see some people that are very confident outside, when you see celebrities on camera, or you see some people on camera that are very confident and very strong, you think that they themselves, they don't deal with the things that you deal with. They're not normal human beings like you. Or maybe the thing they're talking about, they don't have their own personal struggles on that thing. And that's a big lie. That's a far cry from the truth. At least for me. Maybe for some people, you know, they have everything figured out before they came on camera. But I don't have everything figured out. I'm on the journey with you. I'm telling myself every single day to come out of fear as much as I'm telling you to come out of fear. So it was such a terrifying moment or terrifying opportunity that, like I said, I put off the system. But then moving forward, I started to ask myself why I was feeling so afraid. I took some time asking myself that entire day, because I'm not necessarily a very fearful person on every day. But since I started writing about this Out of Fear devotional, it looks as if the anxiety and terror has increased more than normal. And so I asked myself consistently, and then it finally hit me that sometimes we feel afraid because, number one, the stakes are high. When we feel like the stakes are high, we become anxious. It's the first time I was doing a live by myself. Doesn't mean that I've not been in a live video before. I've had invitations. I've even spoken to people. I've preached. I've shared the word of God in church. In fact, I've held entire services. I've held classes. I've held trainings. I've done public speaking. And I consistently train people and put them in front of the camera. I have been around the block. But for some reason, it felt like this was something different and something new, and the stakes felt really high. And when I mean the stakes are high, it means if you look at what you might lose if that goes wrong, we feel that if we don't do it right, this might happen. Or I've been the person going out to tell people, do not be afraid. If I mess this up, what's going to happen? How is it going to be? What if I'm not as lively as I think? What if this happens? What if that happens? And you're just getting all up in your head, because I don't know the thoughts you're thinking, but I know that there might be thoughts there somewhere. The second reason is that you are afraid of failing. Fear of failure is very serious. The possibility of things going wrong is actually staring you in the face. The possibility that you might not be perfect is actually staring you in the face. And the possibility that people might not show up, because it's a live. So I was thinking, what if people don't show up? It's actually staring you in the face. And so you are terrified. You're feeling that, what if I make a mistake? So what if you make a mistake? Like, I didn't get to say everything in my notes. I didn't get to share everything that I planned out to share, but it actually blessed somebody. If I was to examine that by my own standards, I would say I didn't really do well. I failed by my own standard. But the truth is, what was my goal in the first place? To bless somebody's life. And that's the thing we need to be very careful of. As Christians, we tend to make our goal about other things, but our goal should always be about sending out the message that God has sent us, trusting that the Holy Spirit is with us in the process, and that we would minister and bless somebody's life. And if you bless one person means one soul. Even if it's 2 people that show up, 2 people means 2 souls, and you've blessed 2 souls. And God is always intentional about the one. I've heard of crusades that were held just for one person, and that person now led other people. You see, one person is enough for you to show up in obedience to what God has asked you to do. One person is enough to go through all that trouble. One person is enough to turn on your lights, put on your camera, and click record. One person is enough. And so you don't have to be afraid that, oh, you're going to fail or whatever, because the standards of success or failure is not yours to determine. It's an assignment from God, and He's the one that determines what is success and the one that determines what is failure. So what if you have 300 people, and then after you come out of the live, people are hailing you, you feel like you did good and God told you, you went to do what I did not send you to do. Have you not seen that happen before? We've seen that in the Bible. Moses, God says, speak to the rock, and he struck the rock twice. And water came out. So people are like, at least we have water. So before the people, he had success. But before God, he didn't have success. God said, I asked you to speak to the rock, but you struck the rock, which means you didn't do what I asked you to do. And it was disobedience, and he didn't make it to the promised land. So for some of us, we are thinking that, hey, this is what success looks like. If I have 10,000 followers, then I have success. If I have 300 push-up in the life, then I have success. But the truth is that may not be how God is defining success for you. Maybe success for you is that you showed up and that one person came online and listened to you and watched you. And so don't allow the fear of the fact that you're going to fail be a reason not to go out and do it, because failure is not yours to decide. I guess I've said that. Yes, another reason why we can get anxious and afraid is fear of success. You might wonder, what does somebody have to be afraid of for success? Success comes with its own challenges. So let me just tell you the truth. Okay, so what if 1,000 people come, you see that number, become afraid? Have you not seen people that held shows, got tickets, asked people to come up, they got on stage, they've never felt stage fright before when they were singing to 50 people, but they didn't know that now it would be 50,000 people. They got up there and they were terrified. They succeeded, their tickets sold and people showed up. That's a great success for any event. But then they got up there and they became terrified of the number of people that were there. Wasn't a number of people they were trying to gather all the while. They became afraid when they saw that what they were expecting succeeded. That's just how life is. Some of us, our own issue is that we're afraid of success. And even apart from the fact that, okay, you are not expecting it to be that way. What if you show up on the live and then it was so successful, somebody asks you one question that you don't understand? What if people show up so much that somebody just tries to trip you or tries to say something? Because the truth is, online is a very mean space and you never really know what to expect. And so if it goes well, there's always going to be that, and if it doesn't go well, there's still going to be that. That's just how it is. But you don't need to be afraid of success, because the truth is, if God sends you on an assignment and you succeed, he's going to be with you either way. If you fail, he's still going to be. If you fail, well, fail, not like. If either way, God is with us. He's as we call it, ride or die. He's with us when things look good in our own definition and when things look bad in our own definition. He's the constant K. And as long as your constant K is on your side, you don't need to be afraid. So when you come up on situations where you feel like, oh, this is going to be like a very terrifying thing for me. I feel so anxious. I don't know if I have the capacity to do this. What if it works out? What if it doesn't work out? What if it works out and then there's more work? What if, I don't think I'm prepared enough for whatever? Or you come up in any situation at all, that you're thinking something outside of this, but the bottom line is you're feeling anxious or afraid. You don't need to be afraid. Also rest in the fact that God is the one backing you, okay? Whether it's something as little as going to ask your boss for promotion or something as easy as launching that your business, God is backing you and he's with you. And the thing with God is he's not wishy-washy. He doesn't walk away from you. He doesn't leave you. He's with you always. Even when things look good, even when you're perfect or you're not, you can always count on the fact that God is going to always be with you. Okay, and then just as a tip, if you get in a situation where you're about to do something and you feel anxious, I want to advise you to take a moment of worship. Take out a moment of worship and pray and do it anyway. Decide that you're going to do what God has asked you to do, no matter how you feel in that particular situation, because that's what I did on the 31st of January. I showed up even though I felt afraid. I decided that feeling was not going to stop me, because the truth is your feelings are not something you can depend upon. I think I've said that in one of my other videos, that you can't trust your feelings and that fear is a lie. And I realized that even though I was anxious and I still went ahead, I still blessed somebody. Somebody actually told me, thank you for that video that I considered, for that live that I considered that I didn't do so great. Somebody was blessed by it. Can you believe that? It happens. But anyway, you can still show up. You can decide, make a decision, decide. I'm going to show up no matter how I feel. I heard TD Jake share a story of how the first time he came up to preach, his hand was shaking so much, people were seeing it. And the next opportunity he had, he made sure the mic was on its own so he could hide his hand behind his back so that people won't see him shaking so much. And that was his coping mechanism. What's your own coping mechanism? Because you're going to be tempted to feel afraid when situations come. Any new thing, you're going to be tempted to feel afraid. Any big thing, you're going to be tempted to feel afraid. For some of you, is posting it or telling somebody about it before you even get a chance to think about it. I have friends that I can call and tell a dream before I have opportunity to count the cost and become afraid. I just know that God is asking me to do this, and before I get in my own head, I probably would have blabbed to my husband, or I would have blabbed to my friend, or I would have told my sister. And the people that I have around me are people that will not allow you to have any excuse to fail. They are definitely going to push you until you come into the fullness of that thing. They don't take excuses, and they're actually like worse in the sense that they actually expand the thing for you and make it even more terrifying than you ever expected it to be. But that's the blessing of people God is giving me. For you, you might have that kind of tribe, but if you don't have, this is the time to tell you to curate it, to cultivate it, because you're going to need people to go with you on the journey of courage. You're going to need people, you're going to need like minds to go with you. Okay, Daniel had the 3 Hebrew brothers who were willing to break laws with him and to tell the king, we're not even going to answer you on this matter. We will not bow before your God. Imagine if he was alone, he would have felt terrible. But then he got to a point where he was alone and could still stand because his courage and confidence had grown. But in the beginning, when they gave them food to serve to idols, they were 4. And then you also think about the lame man that his friends had to bring to Jesus. Sometimes we just need people to push us. And if you are denying yourself of the blessing of relationships, that's really one of the strategies of the enemy to defeat you, making you not to see good in people, or just making sure that it's negative people that are always coming around you. If you prayerfully ask God to bring true friends your way, there's no prayer that you ask from his word that he won't answer you, as long as it's in alignment with his word. You ask him, I want to have a community of people who will help me to grow in you. That's his will for you. He wants you to always grow in him. He wants you to grow in the things of the Lord. And so if you're asking him for friends that will lead you towards him even more, he's definitely going to answer that prayer. Okay, and I'm strongly believing that this video blessed you somehow. And my next live is on the 28th of February, and I don't know how I'm going to feel, if I'm going to feel anxious, or I'm going to have all the courage, or I'm going to feel all the courage, that I need to feel. Who knows? We're going to have to get to 28th of February to know. However, what I do know is that I am resolute on the fact that I am not going to back down because I feel afraid, and I am not going to allow the fact that I feel afraid to be a hindrance in doing what God has asked me to do. And I hope that you have the same commitment and the same conviction to go in the direction of God. Okay, God bless you. See you next time.